Hello and welcome to another flight. All my past videos have been using FJS's 737-200 and decided to take double flights with SSG's supercritical groups 747-8. This is the newest version, new compared to the older 747-400, which I spent almost a year teaching for Flight Safety Boeing in Seattle. And I've taken about 10 flights in the aircraft and really have enjoyed the newer aircraft along with the newer FMC. And looks like the rampers have pretty much finished loading up the aircraft. This using a plug-in that's specific for this aircraft by Jar Designs. So go and take a peek inside here a little bit. We're presently at the far west end of San Francisco in their cargo area. We're going to be taking today's flight from San Francisco to Seattle, and we'll go ahead and take a look inside. This is what SSG calls their EFB, or electronic flight bag, and it controls, right now it's on the door control window, and everything is open. So the way I like to start, well, right now we're presently on ground power. We'll start up the APU a little later prior to engine start. But I like to do first, although you don't have to, I like to load up the aircraft first, and so the FMC has accurate and up-to-date weights as far as fuel and payload. So when you go to the FMC, it'll have that information and it'll be able to calculate. Otherwise, what it has right now will be a little obsolete if you end up adding fuel and cargo later. So starting off here, I'm going to start with the payload, and it has a couple presets, kind of nice. Right now, the zero fuel weight of the aircraft is 421,000 pounds. And I'm going to go with a preset. There are a number of presets down here you can use. And it's a fairly short flight. This aircraft has incredible capabilities. So I'm going to go ahead and load up 100% cargo. And so what it does is it distributes it throughout the aircraft. Total weight is 295,200 pounds. And so let's go with the fuel next. And I still haven't figured out how the options to use the fuel load assistant here, but the way I found it easiest to do is to go ahead and select FMC select. Right now, this is our current fuel load. We have about 25,500 pounds of fuel on board. And the flight is over 600 miles up to Seattle. The aircraft burns just around 22,000 pounds per hour. So right now we've got about an hour's worth of fuel plus reserves. So we'll usually end up cruise speeds, ground speeds in the upper 400s, 480, 470, somewhere in there. So it should be about an hour and a half flight. I'm going to go ahead and load the aircraft. Oh, let's see, probably around 50,000 pounds total. It should be adequate. It's VFR both here and in Seattle. I'll be on the safe side. Let's go to 52. And so what it will do now, it'll take this total preset and add whatever it needs to add, the difference between these two numbers. So we end up with 52,000 pounds of fuel. So you just click the fuel load button, and fuel's coming aboard. So it'll put primarily fuel in the main tanks 2 and 3, 1 and 4, and we'll look at the schematics of how the fuel works on the lower ICAS a little later. Okay, so there we are, 2,000 pounds. Next, I like to go to the FMC, and so far we have not done any pre-flighting on the overhead panel yet. I do that after the FMC. That's personal preference. You could do the overhead panel now, but what I do is I go to the FMC and put in our route. So let's take a quick look at the route. We'll be doing the, this is Navigraph, by the way, and I use its flight planning feature. When you put in a flight, you can optionally ask for it to go ahead and create a route, and I'm pretty happy with the routes it does. Sometimes I make changes, it varies. Here is the actual route itself. Briscoe, we're departing 28 right to be the SITNA 2 departure, and so forth through these different fixes. We'll be doing the ILS to 34 left to be the CDUG transition into CTAC. So let's go ahead and set up moving maps here so we get the aircraft position. Later on we'll actually use this. So here we are. We're going to depart out here to Koenig, Kolos, and all the way out to Orca, then on up to, and then on to the route. And let's go ahead and take a look at the approach. The approach we'll be doing is 34 left. Be the CDUG down here, fix 25 miles, almost 26 south of the airport. It'll take up a heading of 029 at 5,000 feet. Intercept inbound course and proceed inbound. So let's go ahead and put that into the FMC. So this is FJCC's, I think that's the acronym. My apologies, Xavier, if that's wrong. He's the creator of this FMC system. A couple of things I don't like, but overall it makes the aircraft flying pretty easily. And by the way, SSG has done a wonderful job making this a fairly easy aircraft to fly. So you start off by turning on the FMC, confirm some information here. This is 747-8F. This is the current database I get from the Navigraph. We are using the General Electric engines. FJCC, that's correct. Good. Okay, next step is to go pause iNet page. It's not necessary, but I do it anyway. On some FMCs, it saves a step. You do this now or do it later. So our departure point is KSFO. GPS location is there. Our UTC time is there. Okay, so if you had not put it in on the previous page, you would have to put the origin in now. 6 when I've done the other. Okay, our destination is KSEA. Now, you have the option to either continue to the route and activate later. I like to activate now. That puts the route in so the FMC knows where we're starting from and where we're ending up. And after doing this, clicking on activate, then we'll execute. And then we can start working on departure, en route, and arrival parts of the route. So I'm going to activate and execute. So now you can see the magenta line does point that direction. That's pointing up towards Seattle. So next I like to put in the departure. So we go to the departure arrival page. We're departing San Francisco 28 right. Pretty long taxi from here. I'll probably be putting that on hold. And we're doing the SITNA 2 departure. Right here. With, well, I have it flight planned at the Orca transition. It's a little bit further to the east than we need to be. I'm not going to change it for now. That works. It's not very far out of the way. So we'll do Orca transition. Execute that. Next we'll work on the route. So we want to go to the route page. Not the legs page yet. We'll use the legs page later to check for discontinuities. The way it works is to go to departure route and go to page 2, and that's what it knows so far. If you go to the legs page, you don't have the ability to put in optional J routes and so forth, to my recollection. So this is how I start setting up the route. So from Orca, we're going to go direct to Hup 2 intersection. That is H, Hotel, Uniform, Papa, Tango, Uniform. Now, the actual fixes need to go on this side of the column if we're actually using routes of any kind, J routes. Since we're going up high, then you would select this line select key. But we're going direct. If you just put this in without any sort of airway or anything, then FMC will assume direct, and that's what it'll state. So that's what we're doing. And next we're going to take a J route. Quebec 5 is the name of it. And we're going to take it for quite a while. From Quebec 5, yeah, we're going to go a couple hundred miles here. In fact, we're going to go about 300 or 400 miles on Quebec 5 jet airway. So the way I've got the route set up, it actually, the Navigraph shows all the fixes that it goes to before it goes, if we go off on another direction. And you can do that, but with the FMC build, if you do that, it'll simply just pick the last waypoint and it'll disregard the rest of them. So we're going to start with Quebec 5 is the airway name. So it's Quebec 5. And we'll put that on this side. Then the FMC wants to know, okay, so you're taking Q5. Okay, where are you going to? Where are you going to take it to? And there are about 4 waypoints on this route that we're going to be going to. I'm just going to select the very last one. And it will get us there, and we'll just be going through these other fixes we can see later on. So we are going to take Quebec 5 airway all the way to Mini intersection. So that's Mike, India, NNE, November, November, Echo. Oops, it got tired of waiting. Okay, Quebec 5. That was in Scratchpad too long. So that's our airway. And we're going to go to Mini intersection, Mike, India, November, November, Echo. Okay, from Mini, we're going to go direct to an intersection called Craig. That's Kilo, Romeo, India, Echo, Golf. We'll be going direct to it. So let's put on this side of the FMC's panel. Going direct to Krieg. From there is when we will then do our arrival into Seattle. So at this point, I'm going to go back to the departure arrival page, and we should see this on the legs page when we get there. Departure arrival, and we're going to SEA. We're going to be doing 3-4 left approach. Really nice. That's where I'm from, Seattle, and it used to only have 2 runways for years and years and years and years, and finally decided to build a new runway. Initial plans were to build an additional runway up at Payne, Everett, about 40 miles to the north, as a reliever. That went through. City Council decided to build a 3rd runway, and it's quite interesting. Flown out of the airport about 6 or 7 years flying cargo freight, contract freight for DHL, and having an extra runway is pretty cool. So that's the center runway is the new one. We're going to do the ILS 3-4 left, and we're going to be doing the CDUG transition. I'm not going to do an arrival. It's going to go direct from Craig intersection to 3-4 left via the CDUG transition. We'll execute that. Okay, now I'll go back to the legs page, and these are our fixes on the departure. The last one will be Orca. Oh, correction. There's Orca. And then Hump 2. These are the fixes on Quebec 5 airway, and all the way up. And Craig is the last. Well, actually, Craig is not on Q5, but Minnie is the last one on Quebec 5. Craig is the next waypoint we're going to, so we should be seeing arrival here next. Okay, so as typical, FMC says, okay, you started a route, now you put something in the other end. What do you want to do? How do you want to do this? So actually, we've got two of them this time. The first thing we want to do is we want to tell FMC we want to go from Craig intersection direct to CDUG. So we'll bring that down the scratch pad, pull it up, that gets rid of that one. We'll execute that. Then we have another one from Hipro to Josta. My guess, without looking at the chart, which we'll do here in a moment, is we're going Hipro and Josta are both on the approach course. Let's take a look at the approach and make sure that's correct. So we see here what actually happens here is we fly a heading, and we should actually probably be able to intercept the localizer at this point. FMC will put us on this heading. Hipro and Josta are our next fixes, and down to Joan. So yeah, that's all we need to do is just bring, I think it was Hipro offhand, up to the scratch pad and up to the other discontinuity. Then taking a quick look here, see, yeah, this is pretty close in. Josta is only 11 miles out. Hipro is 14. So looking at the plane profile here, Hipro is at 5,000. And at 14, so my guess is we'll probably be on the localizer and very well be on the glide slope at this point in time by the time we turn on the course from 029 heading, which will let the FMC do for us. Okay, so let's go back to the FMC. So yes, what we want to do is bring Josta up to the scratch, or down the scratch pad, and then is our next fix. And that should clear it out. And we'll go one more. Okay, no, that is correct, because there's our runway, and then the rest of this will all be our missed approach information. One of these days, I'm gonna go ahead and let the aircraft fly the missed approach. Maybe I'll do that one of these days, but for now, let's go back. So there's our ledge page. Now what I do next is go ahead and set in performance information. Click on the INET ref page, or select that. Okay, so now is when, if you had not put fuel or the load on, this is when you would need to, because you don't want to figure these numbers here until FMC has accurate information. So we can see the zero fuel weight was 421,000 pounds. Right now our gross weight with our cargo is 473,000. It knows about the fuel that we put on board. So what you do here is if you click line select 1 here, it will then take this information, it'll subtract away the fuel from the gross weight to give us a zero fuel weight, which should be 421 numbers wise. Okay, so that confirms that what we saw over on the FB. I'm going to put in about well, let's go ahead and put in hours, close to an hour's worth. We'll put in 9/10 of pounds of fuel for reserve. Okay, so what it does now is this puts it in the plan. So what's going to do here when we get the cost index, which dictates how we actually fly the aircraft as far as performance and economy. Most airlines have a fairly low one. The numbers go way up high. I mean, like into the thousands. That's why we see 4 boxes here. My research, most airlines pick somewhere around 90, 100, somewhere in there, and which is economy setting. So what it will do when we put this in, so it will then, the FMC will take this and say, okay, we're going to do this fairly economically. The engines will may not be derated, but it will end up less power cruise and lower ground speeds probably in the 450, 460 range. And I like to be operated to the way it would be operated in real life. I've been selecting caustic indexes of 120 is. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and do 100 today. And what it's going to do, once it knows this information, then it's going to do is go up here to the plan mode and it'll add what it computes to be the fuel we'll need to make this trip. And it should end up maybe in the 30s, 30,000 pounds, somewhere in there. Let's find out. Oh, that's more than I would have expected. Well, I did add a little bit more reserve than I usually do. Usually only, this gives us almost an hour of reserves. So it's calculating we're going to use 42,000, almost 43,000 pounds of fuel on the strip. We have 52,000 pounds of fuel on board. And we can actually see that information over here on the upper ICAS. Here's our gross weight, fuel on board. Later on, once for altitude, it'll give us our cabin altitude, the pressurization. Okay, going back to the FMC, so it's recommending an altitude of 41,000, and that's a little on the high side for me. I like 3s and 7s, so I'm going to go ahead and select 370 or flight level 370 for our cruising altitude. You can select whatever you want to. This is just what it's recommending. If I were going further, like twice this distance, I'm going to go up that high. The airplane does very nicely. I flew from Denver to Los Angeles a couple days ago at 40,000, and it just goes up there lickety split. And if that was almost at a full, I think I had 90% cargo. So I'm going to go to 370. Will be our cruising altitude. Okay, next we go to thrust limit page. Here we need to enter information or confirm what it knows already. I think I've got local temperature at 15 degrees centigrade, which is confirmed here on our upper ICAS here. So you have the option of you can either leave it as is. Right now FMCs knows what the temperature is, or you can actually put in a higher or a lower number here, which is the assumed temperature. And I'm still reading a little bit more about how that actually works. Basically, what you can do is fool the FMC to think the engines are older and to derate climb rates or climb power and so forth. And until I really get a good handle on that in my mind, what I just do is tell the FMC that, okay, I'm going to confirm the FMC that is our actual temperature. So it will, what you just did, it just actually derated to 103%. Okay, and these other figures will, these other derates would take place if they made changes here. Or I believe you can actually select this. One of these days I'll end up doing that, but for now, I'm going to leave this as is. Okay, going to the takeoff page, we now need to put in our planned flaps setting, which I'm going to use 10 degrees of flaps. Up to 20, I think, is the max. So I like 10. So we put this in the flap settings. It will then calculate our VREF speeds, which will be fairly low. We're not real heavy here, so probably in the 120s, maybe low 30s. Okay, so it has both V1 and VREF are both 123, or V2 is 143. We're going to add 15 to this and put it in our MCP a little later. Might just round that up just a little bit. So 15 would be about 158. Okay, now when having the aircraft loaded up higher, a greater weight, say we're fuel, for example, we're already at 100%, kind of adding more cargo, but noticing this trim setting seems to be a little off. 3.8 trim, if you, the indicator's right here. If we were to put 3.8, it's going to take us out of this green arc range. And watching someone else fly, and I kind of agree with him. He's done a lot of YouTube videos flying different aircraft. And his take was, well, I'm going to go down, I'll go down close to that, but I'm not going out of the green arc. I think that's probably pretty accurate. So that's what I'm going to do is, so I just set Sav trim at 5.9, which is higher as we can see, but that's how I'm going to leave it. Okay, I'm going to go back to the legs page, and once again, you can actually do what's called steps through each one. I'm really familiar with this route, and there are no discontinuities. It is the route. We looked at the route. I've already done this route a couple of times from Frisco to Seattle, and I know this will work, so I'm not going to bother. So, next step I do is go ahead and pre-flight the overhead panel. So, in preparation for that, these electronic engine controls, don't recall offhand exactly what they do. It's been too many years. So, one of these days I'm going to look up a whole bunch of this stuff. So anyway, I do know we need to turn them on. Just for procedure, I always turn the IRSs to nav. There are 3 of them on board. SSG has not implemented this into the aircraft, so this is really not necessary, but I do it just for procedure. Standby power needs to go to auto. Utility, both left and right, need to go on. We'll be turning on the APU a little later. Okay, the bus ties need to be turned on to auto. This is for the generators. And this will actually turn these generators themselves on, so when the engine starts up, then the generators will be active. Disconnect, these all should be vertical, or the light showing vertical. And down to the hydraulic demand pumps for startup. Number 1 goes to aux, 2 goes to auto, 2 goes to auto, and then 3 goes to aux. Pumps themselves all go on. Okay, so the way that it's logical, the way this overhead is pre-flighted, you just work left to right, top to bottom. Okay, we just finished left-hand row. This is all fire control, and I'm not going to dink with that for now. And these are the start switches that initiate start sequence for the engines. We'll be using those later. And the aircraft requires cross feeds, all these upper 4 here to be turned on. Why the guard is on 2 and 3, I don't know offhand, but I do know that they need to be turned on for proper fuel flow. Okay, those are all on. We're not going to turn on the actual engine fuel pumps yet. We'll do that as we get ready to start the engines. I don't think we have any really weather on this particular flight, so I'm going to leave all the engine and anti-ice off. We're going to ask. Turn the window heat on, and over the top of the right-hand panel, the auto dampers need to be turned on. Outflow valves need to be open, which they are. These can control all the circulation pumps throughout the aircraft. Leave them as default. We go ahead and turn on 1 pack, get some circulation back there. Isolation valves need to go on, and engine bleeds need to go on. And these will actually dim out here once we get the APU bleed on and once the APU is on. Okay, so that will conclude the overhead panel for now. So we're pretty much getting ready here to fire up. A couple of things to do here. I'm going to go ahead and set up the MCP. I'll be turning on auto throttle and flight correctors here a little later during the flight. Actually, I should get power up. Same thing with LNAV and VNAV. Okay, what did we say? 143 was our V2 speed. Actually, SSG provided a shortcut. We can just bring up the CDU with the F9 key. Let's go back to iNet ref. Actually, I know I've done this before. Oh, let's go to menu. I want to go to takeoff. There we go. Sorry about that. Well, cobwebs there. Takeoff, go on the menu, and then, okay, so our VREF is 143. Standard procedures, add 15 to that, and set that on the CP panel in case that need to be held. V2 goes our best engine out safety speed. So let's go ahead and set 158. Okay, heading wise, let's go back to the legs page. Looks like our first waypoint is 280, basically runway heading. So I'm going to set that as our heading. Whoops. And looking at our altitudes, looks like we have no climb restrictions on this departure. Otherwise, we would see this. This is what the FMC is calculating our altitudes to be. And it's going to be commanding these speeds. And of course, we get above 10,000, and it'll accelerate to our econ climb speed. And once we do get to altitude, 323 knots will be the commanded speed. Once we level off, then it'll be using Mach speeds. So I don't see any restrictions to the climb at all here. So what we're going to do here is go ahead and set our cruise altitude on the altitude window of 37,000. The aircraft will be able to climb unrestricted. Okay, once again I will be setting up the flight director and so forth. That's after we start taxiing out. I do like to set up the VORs. We're going to set VOR 2 and number 1 both active. We also want to set up our ND display, what we want to see, and we want to see both weather and traffic. By the way, our altimeter setting is what I have set, so that's good. So what we're going to do is go down to the radio panel here, and there's our squawk code 3447. Go ahead and turn the transponder to TARA, which then activates the ability to track traffic on the MCP, excuse me, on the MD. So let's go ahead and do that now. We'll go ahead and activate weather, which will show us the lines, and then we're going to activate traffic by clicking here on traffic. Something I found out a couple weeks ago is that you can actually change this display. You can, first of all, select terrain, and it'll show the terrain. The other thing you can do is click this center button, and it gives different options. You can select VOR mode as we're seeing here, and the next step was the one I was kind of interested in. It's vertical I forget what it's called, but it's a plane profile view of terrain. So as you're making climbs and descents, if terrain is an issue, you can see the terrain and see, and these numbers changed based on what the aircraft is altitude wise. Kind of slick. Then it's superimposed right on top of the ND, as you can see, so you can still see all this other information. And lastly, before we leave the ND, something I'm not using too often, because I usually use the airport taxi diagram, or I use airport visual system AVS plugin. But you can dial this all the way down. Well, there's, oops, okay, there's a mile, and this actually is an airport diagram. You can actually monitor the aircraft's position as you taxi different runways and different airports. That's kind of slick. So I'm going to bring the range back out to, to 20 is what I want right now. Okay, we're pretty much done pre-flighting. Oh, this step, it's always a good idea to hit the recall button over here on the on the FO side. It should clear out pretty much everything here, except, actually should clear out all of them with exception of electric gen off 1 and 2. They may come back until the generators are actually running. The white are informational, in which we do know about. We do know packs 2 and 3 are off, parking brake is set, and the GPU is connected. So let's try clicking on the recall button. Okay, and that did clear everything. we'll see later how if that stays. But so yeah, so we know this is information. That's the way we have it set up. All right, so let's go outside here, and I think we can probably recall all our rampers here. So going up to plugins, ground handling, and drive away all, and all our rampers and loaders will then start to exit. They'll end up over here behind the tail of the aircraft, and we're actually going to have to hide them. We don't want to hit them when we taxi out. Okay, another slick thing I like this plugin does is, you notice it's shutting doors. I think that's the last one. Maybe the one on the other side still needs to be open. We're getting pretty close to ready starting up. In fact, I'm going to give a bit of pushback a call here shortly. Okay, looks like it's closed the upper one as well. Of course, the nose cone. It's watching that nose door come up when you're inside the cockpit. It's almost kind of scary looking. That's something big is coming in. It's kind of fun to see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and call better pushback and start to pre-plan our pushback. And I think that's pretty good. Right there is looking good. So its default is set up, and I'm just running the mouse wheel. Turn the aircraft. We actually don't need both of these positions, so I'm going to go ahead and delete what's in there for right now, and then just go ahead and use this position. It likes that position, so you just left click to confirm it. Now we could go ahead and keep doing this if we wanted to, but we don't need to do that, so you just push the enter key.
All right, Captain, got the directions. Let me know through the menu when you're ready.
Okay, that was him. You got the directions. I'll turn the volume up here a little bit. So we are pretty much ready, so let's go back outside again. Let's go ahead and hide. You can also see we have marshalers here, which is a nicety from AutoGate plugin. San Francisco is one of my purchases. The train, can't think of the right word there, which does support AutoGate, and that's why I have a marshaller there. So let's go ahead and hide our ground handling folks. Of course, you really could drive over them. It's just clipping. You just I do it for the fun of it, or realism. Okay. Prior to actually pushing us go back the overhead, we want to go ahead and get the APU going here. We turn it on and just click to the right momentarily, and it'll come back on to the on position. And we're waiting for the APU dinner available lights to come on. And once they do, then we can go ahead and turn the bleed off down here, which will then give us the power to start the engines. Okay, there they are. Okay, they are now available. So next step is to go down to the FB here and go to this page here, and we'll disconnect the GPU and back up. And next we want to go ahead and open up the engine bleed, or excuse me, APU bleed. So then that, of course, extinguishes all these lights, as we said. So we are ready to start. We'll turn these packs back on after engine start. And once we do get the go ahead to start push, we'll turn on the pumps. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and tell better pushback to start pushing.
Great news, Captain. Your tow's coming.
Yeah, this particular guy I don't like. A little too casual. In my experience in pushbacks, we don't talk this way, but that's okay. And actually, what I need to do, let's see, while I'm sitting here, I'm going to go ahead and select auto brakes to RTO, reject the takeoff. So during the taxi, what I should do is get a San Francisco taxi diagram. Well, let's just go ahead and bring up Avatab here. Let's go ahead and put in KSFO. And there we are. And it,
All right, looks like the doors and hatches are closed and we're ready to connect.
One thing you can do with this, you can go ahead, let's go back to the overlay. You can actually select taxiways, and then you can actually click on these taxiways on your desired route, however you are going to plan on taxiing to the desired takeoff. Actually, I'm going to do something different today. I'm not going to do that. I usually do that ahead of time, but I'm not going to take time now to. But just click on these little dots here, and it puts a magenta line down showing your taxi route, which is kind of nice. So I'm going to leave that up as such. Go back to the OPEC view. So I've been taking off 28 right. I haven't taxied this way yet, but I'm going to go ahead and probably take Charlie all the way to 28 right.
Welcome aboard, Captain. Toes connected, bypass pins inserted. Go ahead and kill the parking brake when you're ready to go.
Roger that, and we are ready to push, and brakes are released.
Here comes the pushback. Light them up.
Okay, we'll stop that for now. I like to talk back. They make it more realistic. Okay, so what we need to do here, first step is get the beacon lights going. There's one on the belly and one on the top. We need to turn fuel pumps on. And by the way, I don't know the actual limitation, but center tank pumps you do not need to turn on. I don't know how much they have to have in the tanks for you actually need to have them on, but I have turned them on the first time I was flying the aircraft. It only had like 500 pounds of fuel, and it gave me an ICOS message saying, hey, turn those pumps off. So I'm going to leave them off. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start 3 and 4. That's the way Boeing recommends, teaches it. So what you do is just pull these switches out. You really can't see. You can see number 4 here pull out. You just click on it, it pulls it out. It did come out. And number 4 activates the actual start sequence. And we're going to go down to the fuel levers. And they go up in the up position, which will then the fuel. The actual procedure is to turn these switches on first and then fuel levers. It is automatic. It's not like some aircraft, like even the new 900 737s. You wait for N2 to reach a certain RPM, then introduce fuel. That's all negated in this aircraft. In some others, the 400s for that same as well. Actually, I need to be down here monitoring. A little side note there. So it really doesn't matter. It's all automatic. It will do it automatic. I don't know in this aircraft if in real life if it makes a difference. I do it because I know it's the right procedure, the way we taught it in Boeing. Okay, N1 is, excuse me, N2 is stabilized. N1 looks like it's stabilized. We got nice reading on the EGTs. We got
just about done here. Go ahead and set your parking brake.
Roger, brake set.
And we're disconnecting the tow. Give me just a moment.
Okay, let's go ahead and start up 1 and 2. So normally when doing all this talking here, it's kind of slowing down a little bit here, but so 1 and 2 start switches have been pulled. And we'll go ahead and get the fuel levers up. Okay, N2 and N1, yes, go ahead and disconnect. Are rising nicely. And N1's rising, EDT's rising nicely, N1's slowly rising. And you notice the ICAS messages now say everything we saw before, but it adds.
And we're disconnected. Signal and pin on the left. Take it easy and have a safe flight.
Roger that. Thanks much. Okay, let's go ahead and do a couple things here. What we want to do is turn off the APU. That then shuts the bleed off. And I'm going to do at this point, I like to go and get the lights up now. and I should be looking for, I use that gnome light as well. This switch here for aisle stand does not appear to function in my view. Okay, let's go back and see if he's gone already. Take a look. Up there he is. Okay, brakes release is usually what instigates his departure, which I just did, release the brakes, and we're rolling. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I may have to pause here. I've been having trouble with the nosewheel steering tiller on my Thrustmaster Otis, and I redid it, uninstalled, actually disconnect from the computer, recalibrate it. Right now it seems to be working, so I may have to, we'll see, may have to discontinue using it and use rudder yaw, which will control nosewheel steering as well. I want to find out here real quick. Right now, it's tracking nice and straight. What it was doing, it was arcing back and forth, causing aircraft to move back and forth when you really didn't want it to. Ooh. Oh, it's working slick right now. Just a little bit of pressure, that's all it's supposed to take. By the way, this length of aircraft, you can't follow these lines directly. You gotta lead it. You gotta go out a little bit beyond, so you don't get the wheels turning where you don't want them to turn. Go outside there. Okay, it looks like we're getting where we want to be. Let's reduce the throttle here a little bit. Oop. Ooh, it's working great. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I just wrote an email to tech support of Thrustmaster. This has been horrible. You know, they'd be jerky, the nose wheel would be going left and right, causing, of course, the aircraft to turn left and right. Right now, we are smooth as silk. I'm a happy camper. It's so slick because you can, it's integral right on top of the throttle, so you can work the throttle and the nose wheel steering with the same fingers, the same hand. Okay, let's take this a little wide. Okay, looks like we need to, I haven't taken this taxi route before, so let's see, we're watching our diagram here. Oh, this is wonderful. Oh, I've been really sweating here. Okay, once again, oh, it's working great. Just a little bit of pressure is starting a turn. Take this turn nice and wide so we end up on the center line. Okay, now I think I'm gonna slow down here. I think what I want to do here is can't remember if you take the first one. Oh, I can hit Charlie right off the uniform right here, so we're good. I could continue up and then catch Charlie up there a little further, but I can catch it here off of uniform. Okay, let's get this turn started. We end up in the... That's really strange. I don't know. It's like there's some sort of dust or something that was causing contact. We didn't want it to cause contact, which is causing this undesirable... Oh, it's starting to do it again. Oh, see, I'm not doing anything right now, and it's starting to do this. Starting to do the same thing. Well, I might have to discontinue this. Okay, this is Charlie intersection coming up on. See the way it's turning? I'm not doing anything with a tiller. Well, what a drag. We'll see what Thrustmaster Tech Support says. Yeah, I'll take this all the way. This avoids all the terminal taxiways. Okay, I'm going to do is pause the recording here. It's a long taxiway down here to 8 right. And when we come back, we'll go ahead and get the steps on the MCP we want to do. So we'll talk to you then. Okay, back here momentarily. As I was texting, I was noticing the ICAST messages, and oh man, I'm gonna have to disconnect the tiller here. Noticing that the packs 2 and 3 were still off. I thought I turned them on after starting the engines, but I hadn't. So that message showed that they were still off. So I went and turned them on, and of course the message just went away. That's nice to have that system. The other thing I need to do here is for takeoff is we blank out the lower ICAS. See if I can do that while we taxing at the same time. Oh, geez, look at that. See, I'm just not doing anything. I sure would like to know what's causing this. I don't want to buy a new controller. I mean, this joystick, and everybody got good reviews in a lot of places, so yeah, it's worked great. It's all of a sudden, though, this tiller system has gone cattywampus. Look out. Or we're going to go. I better stop before we end up someplace we don't want to be. So we'll lower ICAS. We want to blank out. Oh, while we're stopped here, take a quick look at the fuel. Show how the fuel works. So we filled up. Mains 1 and 4 were the first one, the main ones to fill, and then these 2, 3 fill. So 1 and 4 feed off of the main 1 and 4 tanks respectively, and then these 2 tanks feed to number 2 tank, and the same thing over on the right hand side. So this does confirm our fuel is 51,000 pounds. Our pre-selected was 52, so we burned off a little bit of fuel, but that's how the fuel works. And we don't have this indicates pumps on, I believe, these boxes here. And these pumps are not on, that's why it's dark here. So let's go back to, we want to blank out the lower ICAS. Okay, once again, I'll be back at the approach end of the runway. Okay, back with you. We're here at the approach end of 28 right. Got the aircraft stopped. Go ahead and take AVS off and go back inside. I did have to disable the noseable tiller, so I'm just using yaw right now. It does control the noseable steer on tiller. It's kind of nice. So a couple things need to do here for departures. First of all, we need to put our flaps down. It's indicated here just to the left of the stab trim indicator. We're going to use 10 degrees of flaps. There's one. We're going to go 2 notches more. There's a 3rd notch, so it's going to go all the way down to 10 degrees. Okay, there's 10 degrees. Next, I'm going to go ahead and get both flight directors armed, and we'll show up on our primary display here for both channels here. This is lateral flight here. This is vertical flight over here. VNAV will be in control of vertical, and LNAV will be in control of lateral. So both of these will illuminate toga. So we turn the flight directors on, and when we add takeoff power, thrust ref will illuminate here on the left-hand side. Okay, and they are illuminated. The other thing I'm going to do is activate the auto throttle. And I'm going to go ahead and now arm both LNAV and VNAV, and they'll show up here and standby in gray letters. This will go to LNAV gray, and this will say VNAV in gray. Okay, they are both armed and ready to go. I'm not sure of the altitudes for the 478, but the 47400 LNAV would activate at 400 feet AGL and VNAV at 1,000. And the way we taught the aircraft was to go to those altitudes and go to autopilot at that time using the aircraft has 3 of them. We just go to the first one, left autopilot here. So that's what I'll be doing. Let it do, it's PFM All right, take a quick look. Actually, let's go ahead and get the lights on for departure. Landing lights, runway lights, taxi light, and we'll get on the strobes, wing light, and turn on the logo light. And we'll take a look at our bird from outside. I find when it gets dark, when we land at Seattle, I'll probably leave the wing lights on. The taxi light is really good when you get up and actually wanting to see ahead of you. I find the wing lights are really nice for turn off. Alright, let's get this bird in the air. Well, it's all kinds of fun views you can do in X-Plane. This is the tower view. And let's see, what else we have here? Well, that's overhead there. I'm hitting shift 1 and 2 on the keyboard. 3, I think, is the approach end. That's a great looking bird, isn't it? I love it. And 6, I think, is in the rear, yeah. 7 takes us back to the cockpit. And those engines sound so great. Okay. So I'll be doing a taxi on the aircraft down the runway, adding power. We're going to go up to somewhere around 50 or 60% in 1. Then I'll be activating thrust ref, which will automatically set takeoff power. We do that with this button right here. I'm not going to push it because when I push here, the recorder will turn blue, and I don't want to actually push that quite yet. So let's go ahead and release the brakes. Brakes were released, and auto brakes are RTO, which we want. Let's do one more quick recall here. We'll start moving further. Okay, the recall light went out, which is a good sign. We are ready. So what I'm having to
28 right.
What I'm having to do here is steer the aircraft with the off function of my joystick. It works well, and by the way, it worked great taxiing down here. It taxis straight as an arrow, so that works well, and I'm using a keyboard now for thrust. So once again, we want to go out here fairly far. So we keep the airplane centerline on the centerline of the runway best we can. That's probably pretty close. A little bit of power, help us through the turn. Oops.
On runway 28 right.
Well, yeah. I waited a little too long to start the turn, but we got there. Okay. Let's get centerline. Tower's clears for takeoff. Another quick peek outside. There's our bird. There's a view from the tower. Yeah, we'll be adding power with the joystick throttle here. And then steering. Actually, I don't think I am going to. I'm going to go ahead and use the keyboard, unfortunately. I'm going to get the power up to maybe somewhere around 50 or 60%, let it stabilize. And then I'm going to go over here to thrust ref automatically. Just click that. That automatically set thrust ref for us. Takeoff power. And it is set at 103.1, which we had saw in the FMC earlier. There's our speed. Okay, it's hard to hear, but we just passed rotation speed, so here we go. Pause ready to climb, gear up. Oops, a little too much there. A tower view of us. There we go. This baby just performs. Okay, let's get back inside. Get my nose a little high there. Alright, let's go ahead and get activating here on LNAV and VNAV. Command A is now commanded. So what it's going to do now is, yeah, sorry, I got the nose a little too high there. So now we see thrust ref is commanded, LNAV is now commanded. So it's going to fly this departure and VNAV speed, because we are restricted on speed. You can see that on the CDU here. It's going to hold 187 knots up to Keining, and so it's actually what it does. It calculates actually as you go in flight. It'll change. I've seen it change on a number of instances. But if I see it, I'll try to make a point of it as we go. So right now it's commanding 187 knots. That's why we see VNAV speed here. Once we get past this fix 4.3 miles and start turning towards Carlos, be unrestricted, and then we'll accelerate to our indicated speed, 323 knots indicated. And then this will turn to the path once we're on the climb path up to our cruise altitude. I'm gonna bring that scale and oh shoot, I'm yakking away here. Let's get the flaps up. I already have flaps 1 speed, so that okay. And there's flaps 1 speed, so I can bring flaps 1. We still have to wait for flaps up speed, which is indicated right here. There it makes our turn. Okay, we're coming up on 10,000, so it should be commanding our econ climb speed here shortly. Still not quite up to flaps up speed yet. Okay, there it is. You just commanded it. 285 knots for now. Okay, we're up now past flaps up speed, so flaps are coming up all the way. And now it's gone ahead and commanded our econ climb speed of 323 knots indicated. And as I said, that will change to actually Mach speeds as we get up to altitude. Okay, there's our next fixed Krug. They'll be heading more to the north and to the west. And let's take a quick look at our departure on Navigraph. Okay, here's our SID, sitting at 2 departure. It's overlaid on top of the en route chart. It's a high en route chart. So we're just turning at Carlos, heading towards Sitna. I'll be heading up northwest to Orca, and then back to the northwest. I almost did when we were pre-flighting. I almost took out Orca just to go direct up to. But yeah, let the FMC work here a little bit. It's a little out of the way, but not much. And looking at the rest of our flight, this is the Q5 airway we mentioned. It's going to take all the way up to Krieg intersection. I believe it should be this one. Yeah. And from here, we'll be going from Krieg to the transition route in the ILS 34 left into Seattle. And we'll bring that chart up here as we get closer to our destination. Go ahead and recenter the chart there. Okay, let's go back to the airplane. You can see with this light fuel load, even though we've got 300,000 pounds of fuel, of cargo, which seems kind of light. I'm not sure. I just thought this occurred to me. That's fairly light for max cargo, but there's a preset. You can look at this. We're climbing here at
altimeter setting.
Yes, thank you. At over 4,000 feet a minute, 428 knot ground speed. That's pretty slick. Okay, so I need to set standard pressure. Let's click the standard button here, and that sets standard pressure. Okay, our top of the climb is only less than 30 miles away. So when we get up to altitude here, we'll check the progress and see what it gives us for an ETA to Seattle. I know above 10,000, normally turn off all the lights. taxi and landing lights and so forth. And I'm just lazy. I most of the time forget to turn them on the descent, so I just leave them on. In the real world, I would not be doing that. Okay, we're leaving flight level 240 now, heading up to flight level 370. And we're up to 459 knots. And here's our present time at 0302 Zulu. It's 39 miles now to our next fixed, Orca. Estimating that at 0307, 5 minutes from now. And both weather and traffic are activated on the ND. Down here is information that the FMC does automatically. It's auto-tuning these VORs, and if we go to the actual NavRad page, we can see which radials we're crossing. There goes one we're just passing by one. Probably it's Concord VOR. It's passing off our right. And it's just for orientation, so if there's a backup, as if the ND doesn't give us enough information. As a backup, you can actually look at the cross radials from these VORs as it auto-tunes them. Then we'll be looking at that a little later. Actually, I think I'm going to do here, let's bring up the FMC again. I'm going to go ahead and request direct up to. That gets us more on course. See, we're already going quite a ways out of our way. It's still 30 miles to Orca, which we really don't need to do. And next time I do this departure, I'll probably leave that out. So I'm going to request direct up to. Okay, direct up to, rest route unchanged, common maintain flight level 370. Giant 124 heavy. So what I'm going to do here is bring up to down to scratch pad, then back up to the active waypoint position, line select 1. And what that will do is, you notice it creates a magenta line here on our, I should bring the scale out here. Up to, oh, it's 87 miles, so that's quite a ways out. But the magenta line is pointing the new course, and it won't do that until you actually execute. So you always want to make sure. I know that's what we do want to do, so I'm going to execute this. And that's our new first waypoint. It'll cut off. Going to Orca, which we don't need to do. Let's just bring the range out here a little bit. Let's see. Oops, wrong way. Hello. See, there's Hub 2. So instead of going all the way east to another 30 miles, we're just making our turn now to go to Hub 2. And I'll save a little bit of time. This kind of thing is done all the time. Depends on who's out there and who's in our line of flight, so to speak. That's why our altitudes are always 2,000 feet apart. ATC was gracious and granted us direct to Hub 2, so we are now much closer to going to our route. Okay, that oral was a reminder that we're coming within 1,000 feet of our cruise altitude. And what's happened now is the speed is now being controlled by the FMC, which we saw earlier. It's now commanding Mach 0.836. And that's going to be our final cruise speed, Mach 0.836, until we're ready to start descent. So this is interesting. Let's take a look at the. Okay. If I had, it's what it's doing. It's just going to. It's not going direct to Hub 2. It's going to a line that does go direct to Hub 2. That's a little different. That's not what I expected, but that'll work. If there's any problem, if it was not happy with that, we would have gotten a message in the FMC in the scratch pad saying not on an intercept course, but it is going to intercept it. So what I was saying is now this display here has gone to speed, so it's being controlled directly by the FMC Hawk 1836. LNAV is still in control laterally, and VNAV now has gone to the path because we have leveled off at our cruise altitude. Okay, it's tuned a couple different VORs now. It's like Sacramento is now tuned on the left VOR. Displayed here, this is the needle for it, and I'm not sure where SUU is. It's only 16 miles. They're both fairly close. That kind of surprised me. I was not expecting that. I expected it to do a direct line, but if I had followed that magenta line out and saw what it was going to do, I may or may not have accepted it. But so it should be turning towards the magenta line here, direct to hump 2 here shortly. Another thing I like to do is keep the heading bug more or less aligned with our course. You never know when you might need to go to heading select. Okay, so we picked a pretty good altitude. Our ground speed is now up to 477 knots, same as true airspeed. I don't use winds aloft. I don't like the way wind is implemented in X-Plane, and I know there are plugins, there are solutions to it, and it's not real life, but you know, that doesn't bother me a whole lot. Someday I may, because it is more realistic to have winds aloft the jet stream and then have winds on the ground, but for now. Okay, so what I was going to say is let's look at the NavRad page first. Okay, these are the VORs that are being automatically selected by the FMC, and these are the radials that we're crossing for each one of these VORs. We're crossing 184 out of SGD and 138 radial out of 116.6. ADFs are tuned frequency. This is a frequency for the ILS. We're going to be doing a 3-4 left in Seattle. The inbound course is shown here. Frequency 110.75. Right now it indicates park. When we get closer in, let's see, just auto-tune something else now. What will happen is the FMC will then automatically bring the active frequency for the ILS up to the active position, or the VOR left. And I still need to research that a little bit. I've read different viewpoints on when that actually takes place. Some mention it's when a certain distance of a destination. Some others mention when it's in your portion of your descent mode. I've noticed as of late it usually pre-selects it when you're close to the approach course and within certain miles. And I forget, don't remember offhand, that it'll auto-tune it. Before we leave this page, I'm going to go ahead and put that frequency into the scratch pad, 110.75. The reason I do that is because that could fail, and you know, if you're in IFR conditions and you need ILS guidance, you don't want this thing auto-tuning a frequency that does you no good. So I put it in here just in case, because now what I can do is line select it up to VOR left position if necessary. You cannot do that. You cannot bring the frequency down to the scratch pad from the line select position here. It will not allow that. So I always put in scratch pad as a backup. Okay, let's go to the progress page. Here's our progress to our next waypoint, 44 miles to go, estimating at 0316, which we see here in the upper right hand corner. Time now is 0310. So about 6 minutes from that fix. Next waypoint is 153 miles, 0329, and this is showing our fuel that we have. So test spinning Seattle is 0427. 0427 is about an hour and 17 minutes from now. And what we can do next is go to more information you can look at, desired. This is our total fuel totalizer that we actually put in before we left, departed San Francisco. This is what it's calculating we have available. And we've used 3,000 pounds of fuel so far. Our airspeed's 478 knots. Okay, now if we go to the VNav page, we should be on the Econ Cruise page, and it's showing us our cruise altitude, what our Econ cruise speed is, what N1 is set to. It's pretty low. That's 87% N1. And it's still recommending, oh wow, it's recommending 420 now. Well, optimal, excuse me. It's recommending 4.1, but I don't want to go up that high. So here's what, once again, our ETA to Seattle. It's estimating 21,000 pounds of fuel once we get there. And we've got 371 miles to the top of descent. One of the FMCs is going to start descent down for our approach at 0358, which is about 46 minutes from now. And let's see, what's on the last page? I don't remember. Oh, okay, this just shows us our restrictions. We're 250 knots at 10,000. And then here again it shows us our top of descent. And actually this is one that fixes on the approach. I'm not sure why it's showing this information here. Okay, well, let's go back to the legs page. Put the CDU away. So we got about an hour and, what did we say, 17 minutes before we start the top of descent. Probably about an hour and 35 minutes to our destination. So what I'm going to do here is, let's take a look outside here. I've got scattered cumulus at, I think, 30, well, at this altitude, 38,000, I guess. Well, almost 80. Those engines sound so great. I marvel, once I sit back in airplanes and cruise, I sit and just marvel at the ingenuity and the genius of the people that made X-Plane and how it's gotten so complex over the years, and the incredible support third-party people give to this software. And I mean, look at the result. I mean, it's like flying the real airplane. It's just it's a real testament to the real brilliance of some people, and the fact that they're so willing to contribute their skills. And of course, this aircraft is payware. You can get a lot of airplanes for free for X-Plane. In fact, X-Plane includes a lot of free airplanes, which is really nice. But it's just pretty amazing to me. In the year I spent with Boeing training, I spent a lot of time in the full flight simulator, and doing a Cat 1 approach down to minimums with Autoland. It's just the WizWag and the PFM, the pure flocking magic. It's just amazing. And that airplane does Autoland. I mean, you could close your eyes, you would never know you're on the ground. This aircraft does it fairly well. I've done Autoland a few times. May or may not do it tonight. I'm not happy with the nose wheel steering, so it may activate automatically. It has the last couple approaches I've done. I may disconnect it. Frankly, I'm not sure of the best way to do that. I would not want to disconnect all autopilots, but what happens is that when Autoland has been selected, either manually or not, the other two autopilots come into play. They both activate, and then we get is annunciators here. Okay, we're making our turn at HEP 2. Now we're getting really close to a direct course to Seattle. Once we get to 330, 340 on the course, we're going pretty much direct. So what I was saying is that what will happen is auto throttle will control the speed unless you deactivate it. And this is this will be the lateral flight. I believe what will be commanded here it will be rollout. It actually show up until it's activated. It shows in standby here, just waiting to be activated. Rollout, and then under pitch, what we'll show here is flare. So it's commanding to roll out on the runway, and of course flare at the proper time. It works pretty well in this aircraft. Like I say, I've seen it done a couple times, so I may or may not do it when it comes time. But what I was saying is that I'll have to look it up, and I don't know if you just simply disconnect the two other autopilots and keep A active. So I don't know. I may or may not. Since it's recording, I want to keep this a good flight. I don't want any snafus, so I may experiment at another time. Okay, so we got what, a little over plus an hour here en route. We're currently well, we're coming up just a little west of Red Bluff, California. Redding's a little bit ahead of us, so we're getting up toward the north end of California right now. So I'm going to do is pause the recording and we'll come back closer to, at, or right after our top of descent into Seattle. We'll talk to you then. Okay, back with you. We're a little more than 10 miles to the top of descent. We're currently about 30 or 40 miles south of Portland, Oregon. We've got the CDU up here, and that's our next waypoint. FMC is going to want to start a descent before we get to Mini. We can see here on the ND. So what I've done is gone ahead and set the next altitude of 11,000. And if I didn't do that when the FMC got to top of descent and it was still MCP was still set, it would change from VNAV path to VNAV alt. And we want to let the FMC start its descent. It does a pretty darn good job of managing the descent, so we'll let it have at it. So theoretically, you could probably set the lowest altitude you're allowed to go down to. In this case, it's 5,000 feet at Hipro, which is on the approach course at 34 left at Seattle. And you can probably do that. The FMC is going to observe all these altitudes, and it will not go below this. All these other altitudes are all inconsequential. It's just what it's estimating to be at altitude-wise at these fixes. One has me a little bit wondering at this point is CDUG, which is only about 8 miles from the approach course. That's a feeder route. So as we can see, it changes. The big thing is it knows we need about 5,000 feet at Hipro, so it'll do its thing pretty darn well. See, it's actually changing as we're watching it here. So now it's saying it's going to be at Krieg at 8,000. So we're almost at the top of descent. What we're going to see here is there'll be a visual path indicator, or VPI, over here on the right side with a scale, and it'll be a little magenta indicator here. And while we're on the path, it'll be pretty much in the center. Should be coming up here pretty quick. There's also an indicator here on the primary display, shows the same thing. Later on, this will be our glide slope indicator. Okay, we weren't quite at the top of the sun. There it goes. Okay, there's our path indicator. We're above it right now. See, it's slowly coming up. We're catching up with it. As indicated here in the VNAV path, still indicated. Now we're getting a little bit below it. So now it says it's going to be at Krieg at flight level 190. It's going to be at CDUG at 8,000 and at Hipro at 5. That's sounding a whole lot better. So still have, well, let's check. Let's see what we have for progress. Still estimating, now it's estimating Seattle at 0423. It's only 20 some odd minutes from now. So what I'm going to do here is go ahead and see our VREF speed is going to be. Okay, this is the click on the INET ref page, and automatically it takes you to the approach ref page. And what's good to see here is, well, first of all, starting at the top, that's going to be our gross weight, 451,000 pounds right now. Here's our flap settings, the two options. We're going to use flaps 30, so our V speed will be 127. Seattle 34 left is 8,500 feet long, which reminds me I'm going to set auto brakes. Descent checklist. Auto brakes are now set and confirmed on the upper ICAS. And ILS frequency is 110.75, of course 345, and it's now been auto-tuned, which means it will, FMC will automatically tune it at the appropriate time. So in order to put this into play here, 30 degrees and 127, use this line select. It brings it down to scratch pad, now come up line selected here, line select 4, and it'll put it in. So now it'll show our VREF will be displayed on the ticker tape, speed tape here. So looking good. Take a quick look at the chart. And here again is our Navigraph chart outlining our route. This is our next waypoint, Craig. And zoom in and see Doug is our fix after that, which is right here. Then we take on a heading to intercept the approach course and then track it on in. Let's see, ILS is it's a standard Cat 1 200 AGL ILS. And then the one we're doing, there are Cat 2 and Cat 3 approaches available as well for this runway. So back to the cockpit. So our VREF speed has been calculated. Okay, it's coming back on power quite a bit here. Stay on the path. Okay, it's got Battleground VOR, which is 15 miles north of Portland. So we're a little north of Portland now. Newburgh is 24. So what we can do here is set our decision height. It's airport's 430. I'm going to set 640. Actually, take that back. Can't remember if this is if this readout is above ground or MSL. I think it must be above ground. So it is a 200-foot AGL MSL. I mean, this decision height. Hello. This one I said 200. See how it works out. And then rusty on that one. Another thing is, we slow down and get lower, it's going to start indicating speeds at which we can start extending flaps. And I'm not sure if I really agree with the listings here. Maybe it has to do with weight. I don't think so, but I go by what's on the placard here. Flaps 1 at 285, 5 at 265, 10 at 245, 20 at 235. And you can extend landing flaps at 30 all the way up to 185 knots. And I've noticed the speed control, auto throttle does a pretty good job as we get on lower, but we do have to watch our speed. When we get closer in, it'll start indicating commanded speeds up here based on what the FMC is showing down here. And if we look here, we're going to want slower speeds, 250 knots, especially by hip row and inbound. So may have to make adjustments here, but we should be able to see the speeds displayed up here and make adjustments with a knob as and if necessary. Okay, it looks like we're still on the path, leaving flight level 230, heading down to 11,000. Actually, we're going to go lower than 11,000. In fact, let's take another look here. So it's now estimating, well, no, it still says Krieg at 19. And Krieg is still 11 miles. Well, that's just what his plans to be at. Still going to get the Sea Dug by 8. I'm going to go ahead and put 8,000 in the FCP. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and put 5, because those altitudes above that are just what it predicts to be at these fixes. We know we don't want to go below 5 until we get the hip rope. So I'm just going to put 5,000 in there, and the FMC will take care of the rest. Okay, just coming up on Krieg. Our next waypoint is Sea Dug, which is the initial fix. It's interesting, going to the approach plate at Sea Dug, heading a 270 or heading a 029 at 5,000 is what we use to intercept the localizer. What the FMC here has, actually I see what it's going to do. All right, it's going to. I'm surprised it's really not on here because it does have the capability of flying headings. I'm surprised the heading of 029 to intercept the approach course is not in there. So what it's going to do when we get to Sea Dug, it's going to take a heading of 357 to get to hip rope. We won't be on the approach course until Josta, which is 11 miles out, but the altitude looks good. 4,000 is where we need to be. So we will let it do its thing. Okay, the inbound course for the approach is 344, so I've got the heading bug set up for that. I like it for orientation to see how we are doing in relationship to the approach course. Okay, we're below flight level 180. Go back to local pressure. So in essence, we have 12,000 feet to descend here to get to the altitudes we want to be at for the approach. Currently descending at just under 2,000 feet a minute. Sea Dug is still 30 miles away, so we're looking good. It's gotten dark. They're actually approaching Tacoma, Washington, which is a city sister when it comes to the airport. It's called SeaTac for both cities. Tacoma is 30 miles south of Seattle. I just love that engine sound. A lot quieter than the 400 series. But these are the new GE engines. Much more efficient and quieter and powerful. Okay, as the localizer is tuned, we'll see it displayed here in the lower left. And I may bring up the CDU FMC so we can see that. Once that happens, or pretty close soon after that, I'm going to select the ND to the approach mode. So we'll still see the fixes, but we'll see the ILS information. The localizer, glide slope indicator will be displayed. And once we're in a good position to do that, we'll go ahead and arm the localizer. I arm the localizer first, so we know as soon as we can, we'll start tracking it. And once we do select the approach, we'll get the indicator for the glide slope and arm the approach. And while we have him in here, also point out is that the FMC is always going to go by the altitudes it sees unless it's intervened with. And the other day, it wanted to descend down to the technical glide slope intercept altitude, which was only like 2,000 feet. And I forget what airport offhand, but we were just below the glide slope. So instead of descending down, which I could have done because the FMC went into VNAV Alt, I could have pushed the button and descended on down, but what I did is I held altitude, so we intercept the glide slope, and which it captured like 5 seconds later, and so then we continued down under glide slope guidance. Now, normally what has to happen is you have to have ATC permission to do that, because you're technically not supposed to intercept the glide slope until you're at what's called glide slope intercept altitude, or GSIA, and that's what's published on the chart. For this approach, for example, it's 2,400 feet is a technical. So if you're a lost common, not radar contact, technically you'd have to send down to that altitude before you intercept the glide slope. Okay, so what's happening here is we're going to get above the path here. Excuse me. Because the aircraft needs to slow down. And so it knows it's slowing down, but we're also descending at the same time. So we will get down to 250 as necessary. Once again, our VREF is pretty slow, 127 knots. I like about VREF plus 15 to 20 on a couple mile final. Let's get the range in here a little bit. Okay, it was just coming up on CDUG. That's pretty much, well, we're a little on the high side. It intended to get down to 8,000. Now we still have 2 miles. You can see our airport off here in the distance, 11:30. We're going to 34 left over there. Okay, it's still auto-tuning. It's tuned the Olympia VOR and then the Tacoma VOR. Okay, so we're just making a slight turn here. So it should auto-tune the localizer pretty quick. We'll let LNAV do its thing, because after CDUG we're ahead to HIPRO, which is fine. So somewhere in there we should get the localizer tuning. Frequency is 110.75. And we should see identifier of India, Bravo, Echo, Juliet. So technically we're not doing exactly what the approach plate says. So in reality, unless we got permission to go direct to hip rope, which we're doing right now, we'd have to ask for permission to do that. Okay, when we level off here, a couple thousand feet here to go. If I don't think it's going to command anything slower than 250, so I'm probably going to level off here. I'm going to go ahead and speed intervene here and slow us down here a bit. Right now it's fine. Well, actually in reality, this close to the approach, following other traffic, ATC would probably want us to slow down. So I think we'll go ahead and see, it's auto. Okay, now it's just coming in with a localizer, I believe. That's what these indicators are for. I'm going to go ahead and speed intervene, which it won't let me do. Probably have to do it on the FMC. Well, you know, I might have to, a little more important right now is to get the, see, it's tuned the VOR at Seattle. It hasn't tuned the ILS yet. Only 15 miles out. I think I'm going to go ahead and manually tune it. There's our 5,000. Yeah, I'm surprised it hasn't auto-tuned it. Should have auto-tuned it. So let's, oops. Come on. Wait a minute. Gosh darn it. Come on, go away. It's not letting me auto-tune. This is not so good. In fact, this is really bad. Oh. I just did. Alright. Now we're good. Let's go to the approach mode. And we've got a altitude intervene here. And arm the approach, because we're well above glide slope here. Gotta get some flaps out. Slow down. Okay, so I've intervened here, and I'm going to go ahead and go to vertical speed so we can catch up with the glide slope. And we're on the fast side here. See, it's commanding 167 knots. And pretty much at flight idle. So I'm going to be fast and high here. Dang it. Let's go for some more flaps. Okay, we're a little fast for those flaps. Let's get the gear out. I know we can drop the gear at this speed. Okay, the localizer definitely is tracked. We're still on vertical speed. Glide slope still to go. Looks like we're slowly catching up. Oops. Okay, I gotta keep descending here. Still haven't caught the glide slope. Okay, looks like we're slowly catching up the glide slope. Okay, speed's looking good. So now I've got the MCP set to pretty much missed approach, altitude of 700 feet. Okay, looks like it has not tuned itself for auto land, which is fine. Okay, we're still on the fast side here. It's going to go to flaps 20. We might be a little fast. Nope, we're okay. And then I'll get the flaps relief message. So high. Okay, FMC is now commanding 137 knots. And it's trying to get there. Okay, we're almost on glide path here. So I'm going to do here is, oh, yeah, I just captured it.
1,000.
Okay, so now,
Approaching 3, 4, left.
okay, so now 137 is commanded, and we'll slowly slow to that speed. And let's go flaps 30. I'm going to go ahead and disable, or just, disable auto throttle.
500. 400.
Okay, looking
300.
good. Speed is VREF plus 10 right now. I'm going a little low on the slope here, so I got to have some power here.
Minimums. 200.
There we go. Now we're back to normal. Okay, disengaging autopilot.
100. 50. 40. 30. 20.
Oops, it's not a little too fast.
Long landing, 6,000
Okay.
feet remaining.
We're on the ground. Reverse thrust is not commanded. Auto brakes 2 are in effect. Okay, and reverse thrust can now be disabled. Auto brakes can be disarmed. Oops. Now see, most aircraft, as soon as they hit the brakes, it disarms auto brakes. It did not do that. Okay, let's take a look at that. So the brakes here, just, well, let's get off the runway here. Well, so yeah, that caught me by a little bit surprised. Should have auto-tuned sooner. And that remote CDU for the FMC, I found trying to click there sometimes doesn't work real well. Probably could have auto-tuned it or manually tuned it a little faster. And as a result, though, we stayed too high, so I had to go to vertical speed in order to get down and capture the glide slope, which we did do. Okay, we'll have a fairly short taxi here. We're going to park at the way northeast end of the field where cargo goes. I'm just going to get off the runway here, start cleaning the aircraft up. And I am steering with the yaw of the joystick. The tiller is just, I think it just stopped working again, so I disabled it again, and I emailed Thrustmaster Tech Support. So I'm going to park right here, and we're going to pause here for a moment, and we'll see how that approach and landing looked. Okay, this is us coming in about 6 miles out. It's not so easy to see at dark nighttime, but this is us. That's interesting. This is X-Plane's stock replay app. Yeah, maybe I'll start showing up here as we get closer. I didn't see the airport at all. Now we're starting to see some lights. Should start this a little closer in. Yeah, there's our runway. Let's see. So we can look at this view coming in. This will be a flyby. I think this is at the approach end. Here we come. And this is the tower view. And then that glare shield gets right in the way. You can't, I can go left or right, but I can't go fore and aft. So let's go back to this view. Okay, we're less than 2 miles out now. This will be easier if we a little lighter here. I can zoom in from here, but I can't zoom out, so should be able to get a pretty good feel. We kept the 30 side down anyway. A little fast. I was looking for 130 knots as up to 150 there, a couple miles out. Start touchdown, going into reverse. Okay. Well, not all that impressive. In our time we can't see, but I think we did a fair job anyway. Okay, let's get back to the airplane real time. Okay, so let's get taxiing here. What I want to do is start cleaning up the aircraft, get the flaps up, and get the speed brakes up, or down I should say. Flaps are coming up. Sometime today. Pardon me. Well, the parking brake on this thing is just do not like. See, it's still engaged. I hit it. There it goes. And don't need a taxi diagram. I flew out of this airport for 7 years. Although this the center runway though is new for me. We're going to cross it here. So flaps and flaps are up and speed brakes are down. I'm going to start killing off the landing lights. Probably do that as we taxi here. We'll leave the wing lights on. Well, come on. There we go. And we need to get the APU running. Let's go ahead and cross the active runway here. Cross the runways, I should say. Actually, I don't want to stop here again. One person, got to do it all. So runway turn-off lights are on. Wing lights are still on, that's what I want. And taxi light is on. Beacon's on, we can turn the strobes off. Let's go ahead and get the APU going. So it's ready when we want to shut down. That darn brake. Okay. And while we're heading here, let's go ahead and turn off.
Approaching 16 center.
Right. And then we have the other runway still to cross. Okay, flight directors are now shut down. Auto throttle shut down. So yeah, wing lights and runway turn-off lights are still on, and I still find this kind of difficult to see properly.
Approaching 16 left.
Yes, thank you. And we need to make this turn here. In fact, we're almost at parking. There's a little on the fast side, but I can't get to my brakes right now. Okay, this is in real life where cargo is. FedEx pretty much takes care of the south end of this. DHL and some others used to be way at the north end. This is where I'm used to actually parking, where I used to park, serving DHL. And then they moved to Bowling Field, just 7-8 miles away. Now I think they're actually back at SeaTac again, but like we have entourage waiting for us. I'm still trying to get used to steering the aircraft with the darn yaw on the joystick instead of the tiller on the throttle. The center line here. Alright, so we need to pick one of these hard spots. It's not easy to see at nighttime. And let's see. Well, I usually park is right at the end of that building there. Looks like we have some folks waiting there anyway. Seeing the big yellow line that comes out. Oh, I think it's not the end of the world if I don't hit it, but I like to be exact. You know, it's like I'm not sure if that's it or not. Well, we're gonna go a little bit beyond. Well, let's not belabor this. Let's go ahead and get in and shut down, and we'll call the flight. We need a little bit of power here. Turn. All of a sudden, doesn't want to turn. Yeah, probably because it needs the power. Oops, not too much power. I'm going to get the lights off too, so I'm just kind of need the power in that sharp turn. Also don't want to blind these guys. Hit the parking brake because I can't do it all at one time. While we're moving, get the runway lights off, taxi light off, get the wing light off. We're not blinding everyone. The parking brakes off. Want to hit the light pole there, so it's probably getting pretty close enough. So let's go ahead and stop right here. The parking brakes are set. This message we're seeing on the ND is because what's happening is that the FMC is tuned. It's tuned another frequency. When EFIS panel and this disagree, that's when you get this message, and it's simple. You can ignore it or just change the mode. Okay, we need to shut this baby down. So fuel levers go shut down. We'll turn off the beacon light and leave the navs on. Strobe's already off. And let's get the AP. Oh shoot, I forgot to. Doggone. Well, okay, APU generators are available. I'm in the habit of getting those going before shutting down, but I think in this aircraft you don't have to worry about that because they were still there. Okay, so let's get some doors open. Actually, let's call up. Whoops. Let's call our ground crew, and they'll open the doors for us. Yeah, could have gone a little further. In fact, I might get the tow to bring us up a little closer. In fact, why don't I do that? Well, let's see, the tow's over here. We need to release the parking brake. Let's go ahead and engage the tow. And let's go forward just a little bit. Okay, that's good. And set the parking brake again. That's set. Okay, let's see if that looks any better. Well, still could go a little further, but call it good. All right, let's bring out the ground handling folks. They're going to come and actually what they do is they load the aircraft, but we'll just pretend that they're unloading. Okay, that will end this flight. Thanks so much for those that watched. Hope it wasn't too boring. Felt had some fairly good comments here and there. The flight went well. Had to play catch up a few places on the final descent. Got a little too fast. The FMC did a pretty good job the whole route, climbs and descents, and we made it to our destination. And that'll be it. Probably going to take this aircraft back up to Anchorage on its next flight, and we'll go from there. Thanks so much. Take care. If you liked it, please leave comments or subscribe. Bye-bye.